How many times have you given back your profits that you already had? How often do you go and look back at your trading day and think, if I had just walked away before noon, I would have had a great day. Or maybe you even surprise yourself sometimes how much money you are actually able to make in the market, but also how quickly you can wipe it out. The reason why most traders struggle is not that they cannot make money in trading, but it is because they cannot keep it. Making money is really not the hard part. And if you have traded for a while, then you already know it. Am I right? You know exactly how to make money, but somehow you might be giving it back to the market. Keeping the money, this is really where things start to break down. Can you sometimes look at your numbers at the end of the month and think, I cannot believe that I actually was able to make that much money, but then not keep anything in the end? I know definitely I've had this experience many, many times. If you can relate to that, then today's conversation is specifically for you. So I'm really happy you're here because this conversation is around a skill that determines whether a trader can ever be consistently profitable. I'm Agnieszka Wood. I'm the founder of Ahead Coach and also a trading mindset coach. And I specialize in helping traders build the mindset and discipline to follow the plan with calm, confidence, and consistency. And I have been trading for over 15 years myself. I know firsthand what it feels like to sit in front of the screen and battle fear, anxiety, hesitation, frustration, and all the emotional swings that trading can bring. Nowadays, I day trade, I also swing trade, and I manage my IRA accounts as well. And over the last 7 years, through my coaching work as a trading mindset coach, I have worked with hundreds of traders who knew what they should be doing, but struggled to actually do it consistently, especially when they were under pressure. When the heat was on, in the moment, things were breaking down. And one thing that I started noticing over and over again, both in my own trading and in the traders that I worked with, was that the biggest problem usually wasn't the strategy, even though sometimes you hear yourself or maybe other traders saying, I need a different strategy because my strategy isn't working. But usually that's not the problem why traders struggle. The biggest problem was the inability to act in their own best interest consistently. And that's exactly what I want to talk with you about today. In the first years of my trading, I had many of those days that on paper, it should have been really good trading days. I would catch the move and manage the risk really well. I did, let's say, everything right as it should be. And then at one point, when I was up nicely, I did not close. I just stayed a little longer and then a little longer because maybe there was something more. Maybe I could have made more money. Have you ever done that? You know, you have the profit, you're already up, you know you should probably take it. Everything in you is screaming, take the money. But then something inside keeps holding on. And then slowly you see the profit start shrinking. And I remember sitting there watching it happen and not doing anything, just sitting there. Not because I didn't know what to do, I knew exactly what I should do, but because in that moment, I wasn't acting in my best interest. What hit me later wasn't even the lost profit, but it was really something else. What I realized was that this wasn't just happening in my trading. I was doing the same thing in my life, doing something that I knew I shouldn't be doing, saying yes when I actually meant no, pushing when I needed rest, and then holding on to things when I actually should have let go. And that was the moment when something shifted for me, because that was the moment when I stopped asking myself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my trading? What am I doing wrong? And then I started asking, where, why am I acting against myself? Why do I keep hurting myself? And that's a very different question. And if you are honest with yourself, just ask yourself, how often do you do that? How often do you act against yourself, despite knowing better? How often do you hurt your own interest, even though you don't have to? When you don't have to compromise, but somehow you still do that. The fact is that trading doesn't create your behavior. It doesn't make you do something. It doesn't make you something. Market doesn't make you do things. It just simply reflects. Your computer screens in front of you are like mirrors, and the market will reflect who you are. It will show you exactly the patterns that you have been repeating in your life every single day for years sometimes. And then when you come into trading, the market is gonna put it all in front of you and show you the mirror and show you one by one who you are. The very normal reaction that we have to that is, that's not me. Defensiveness, rejection, resistance, because we don't like to see the things that we don't like. If the market is reflecting the truth, it says, hey, listen, you're not really taking care of yourself. You don't want to see that. If the market says, why are you lying to yourself? The first reaction is, I'm not lying, because it's not easy to confront the truth. And now at first, I really thought when I started trading and I, followed a lot of different people and I've been to different chat rooms, I really thought that the formula for success in trading was very simple. I needed a strategy that, right? If I had a strategy and then we'll keep doing the same thing over and over again consistently, then I will eventually become profitable over time. So I had that notion of, I just need to trade longer. I just need to wait a little bit more. Somehow all these problems are going to solve by itself. I just need time. Because a lot of times in life, this is how things work, right? Just keep doing what you're doing and it's going to get better. Just be patient. Keep going. It's going to get better. But the problem was that in trading, it wasn't getting any better. In fact, the only thing that I was doing consistently was losing my profits and repeating the same mistakes over and over again. So I eventually realized that this formula is incomplete. This didn't work for me. And I wonder if this is working for you. And if just trying to do the same thing over and over again is actually making things better. So that's when I started seeing things differently. And I realized that making money consistently is absolutely not the same as keeping money consistently. There was this missing piece, and that missing piece is what I call now the profitability skill. For me, the formula became the strategy, consistency, plus the profitability skill. And that is what gives consistent profit. And once I started seeing that, everything started to click. things started to change, because the biggest measurable shift in my trading and also later in my clients didn't come from repeating the same mistakes or changing the strategy and starting all over. It came from building this ability to stop acting against yourself. That's really the critical element. And it's going really quite deep. If you really think about it, acting in your best interest at all time sometimes sits in a very uncomfortable place for people, because many times people who are givers, who are not comfortable taking care of themselves, it's because they feel like it makes them egoists, like they are not caring about others. But if you look closely, how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you treat yourself every day will be reflected in how you treat yourself in trading. And there is no one in trading that will take care of you and your interest. So if you don't have that skill, how to take care of yourself, you simply will be taken advantage of, so to say, or you will allow yourself to be taken advantage of. And I know that that's uncomfortable to hear sometimes, but it's also kind of freeing, because now the problem becomes workable. So the profitability isn't just about strategy or execution, and it's definitely not something that automatically happens if you trade long enough. What actually allows someone to keep profits instead of giving them back is a skill that anyone can develop. And actually, it's not just one skill, but it's a set of skills. What are those profitability skills exactly? When I started digging deeper into this, I realized that there were few things that I kept violating over and over again in my life. And then I started seeing it in my trading. The first one, I was not respecting my own boundaries. I wasn't fully honest with myself in the moment. And I kept pushing past what I actually needed. I kept pushing the line and pushing myself. And every single time that I did that, it just showed up in my P&L. Can you see any of these issues bleeding maybe from your life to your trading? It's how you live, that's how you trade. You're taking yourself with you no matter what the context is. So profitability isn't just about what you do in the market. It's not this one thing, because those things, they are part of our identity, is how we see ourselves, what we think we deserve or not deserve, what we think we are worth or not. And the crazy thing about trading is that somehow, especially people that have those issues, trading seems so attractive because maybe subconsciously we feel like we can finally let that go. Because trading is the domain that gives you unlimited potential. It gives you this possibility to expand, to let the boundaries go and actually allow yourself to be the best version of yourself without the limits, without the boxes. But if you have no boundaries at all, this is going to start working against you. Because total freedom, and that's why most traders are getting into trading, freedom without discipline, without rules, without boundaries is chaos. And that's where most traders are ending up in chaos. And that's why things become overwhelming, because there is no structure. These three skills in particular, I believe that they determine whether you will act in your best interest or against it. Boundaries, self-honesty, and self-respect. So let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries basically mean simply knowing when to stop and then actually stopping. Sounds simple, right? Just stop. How many times you know that you should stop, but then you continue trading anyway? That's why this is a skill that needs to be developed. This is not something that you can pressure yourself and push yourself, because as you might know, trading is already high pressure environment. And if you add extra pressure to it, you simply are going to be reactive because your nervous system is going to be reacting to this additional pressure. So setting your boundaries and knowing when to stop is a skill that you can learn. It also means saying no. How good are you in saying no? First of all, saying no to other people, but also saying no to yourself. And then sticking to this commitment, committing to something, having the integrity to say no to the things that are not good for you. And if you look in your life, you can easily see what are the things that are not good for you, but you do not say no to them. In trading, this could be trades you didn't plan. This could be not getting out of the trade in time, or trading instruments that are, for example, too volatile for your risk profile. You know you shouldn't be trading them, but then you still do. And then the last one is about the boundaries is also about protecting your time, protecting your resources and your energy. And in the resources, there's also your capital in there, emotional capital, but also your financial capital. And for trader, protecting your resources and your energy and your time, it's such a key element, because you are the resource, you are the most important asset in your trading. So if you do not protect yourself, if you don't protect if you don't have a boundary, and you, for example, just simple thing of not getting enough sleep, this is going to affect your performance. So really creating clear boundaries that support you and your trading in your life. And that means respecting your rules, not just in trading, but also in your life, your routines, respecting your stops in trading, but also in your life, knowing when enough is enough. What is your enough? And protecting your exits in trades, but also when is the time to go? When is the time to stop? Not overstaying, not forcing. Have you ever had a passion that slowly became your obsession? I've had many passions that became my obsession, and in the end, they hurt me because I became so driven in it and I had no boundaries. I did not want to disappoint anyone. I couldn't say no, and I kept going. And finally, physically, my body said, stop here, not further. And I had to stop. And how many times does this happen in trading? People who are passionate about trading, they start pushing, they have to make money, they push, and finally something happens with their health. They put so much stress on themselves, they couldn't take a break. It became an obsession and it took over before they even realized it. Because it can take over and negatively start affecting your life. Trading can easily become that. And if you don't have clear set boundaries and you don't respect them, this is how this can happen. Especially when your self-image, your self-worth, your goals, and your emotions become so attached to it that you don't even see another choice. Without boundaries, you will let the market consume you. It's very easy to do that. The second skill is self-honesty. This is about acknowledging what's actually happening. purely from the awareness perspective, like, what is it that I am seeing, without judging it, without justifying it, just taking things for what they are. And maybe you have noticed yourself that when you're trading and you took a loss or made a mistake, that there is this whole internal conversation going on, trying to excuse you or find a reason, or maybe even judge you why you made this mistake. Being honest with yourself is just calling for what it is, not trying to cover it up, not trying to look for the guilty ones. Yeah, but the markets. Yeah, but they told me. Yeah, they know where my stops are. How often do I hear that? They know. Like, who is they? It's also about confronting the truth. Stop distorting the image. Like, things are as just as they are, and trying to make them look better just is a waste of your energy. You don't need to do that, even if you don't like what you see. And sometimes when you take a big loss, it hurts already. But then by beating yourself up and calling yourself names, that doesn't make it any better, does it? And you can just simply be honest. I made a mistake. That's okay. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not going to put energy into it of trying to cover it up. This one is really uncomfortable because self-honesty means really catching yourself in the moment, and ideally in the moment, not when the damage is already done. It means things like noticing when you are getting tired, or maybe when you are getting triggered, and acknowledging it. It means noticing when you're getting emotional and not rejecting it, just acknowledging the emotions are there. Maybe you are frustrated. Maybe you are angry. Maybe you do feel greedy. Do not try to change it. Just acknowledge it. Confront what's there, even if you don't like it. It really means recognize the truth for whatever it is. And also admit when you are trying to bend the truth. Catching yourself doing that is actually really refreshing. You don't have to put it on Facebook that you catch yourself lying. It's just for you. Being truly in integrity with yourself, just making the first step, just acknowledging it. If you cannot change it, if you're still doing it, it's fine. At least be honest about it. If you can give yourself a gift of honesty, just be honest with yourself. And that will also help you to accept when you are wrong. Because the reason why a lot of times we fight to prove something is because we don't want to admit we were wrong. So we are lying to ourselves and trying to cover it up. How many times you knew you should be doing something while you were doing it, knowing you shouldn't be doing it, but then still continued? It's really hard to stop repeating the same mistakes if you keep lying to yourself, because you're just clouding the process. You're just playing tricks with yourself, playing games. You need to realize that the reason why you do that, if you do that, is just to comfort yourself. And the market is there not to comfort you. You are not trading to fulfill your emotional needs. Well, most traders do, and that's the problem. But if you realize that, trading becomes so much easier and so much more fun if you don't bring your emotional needs into trading. And the last one I want to talk about today is self-respect. Self-respect is about detaching your self-worth from the outcome. And honestly, this is where a lot of traders struggle, because many people tie their self-worth to performance. They make it mean something about them. Whether you lose or make money, you make it mean that you're successful, or that you're a failure, or that you're good enough. And if you keep attaching that identity, who you are, to how much you make, how will you still respect yourself on a red day? That's going to be really tough. And that's why a lot of traders are fighting their losses. Because it's not just the loss. Many times it means I have just lost a piece of my own dignity. And I'm going to go there and fight back for it. It's about letting go of the need to prove something. Can you walk away from the market without the need to prove that you are good enough? Can you feel good enough without being a great trader? Do you have something else in your life that fulfills you so that you don't need to look for that fulfillment from the market? If you attach your trading and your results, if you give the market the role to prove something to you about you, it's a very tricky game because of the losses, because of the probability, because of the uncertainty. Your sense of self-worth will always be a whipsaw, depending on how you did today. And then the last but not least, can you be okay with a loss? Can you not let decide who you are? Because if you can't, if your loss decides who you are, then you will keep overriding your best interest and keep fighting. Just notice that the definition of your best interest in life is different than what your best interest in the market is. Even though many traders don't want to lose, taking calculated losses that are in your plan are in your best interest. It's a little bit like going to the dentist. Not everyone likes it. Most people don't, especially if you had a bad experience with a dentist. But you go. You know that this is good for you. So no matter how you feel about it, you will go because it's good for you. And in trading, because you have the freedom not to do it, you try to avoid losses as much as you can. When you focus on building just these 3 skills, then you will notice that your emotional responsibility and self-trust, your confidence will start growing naturally. But now, if this was so easy, then most traders would already be doing it, right? So what gets in the way? There are a few patterns that I see over and over again that stop traders from acting in their own best interest. These are the sabotaging patterns. The first one is lack of boundaries. You say yes when you mean no. You push when you should stop. You overwork. You ignore your own limits. And then you keep going along after you should have stepped away. Lack of boundaries really distort the balance between giving and taking. You might be someone who is a giver. And I know a lot of traders are, because many times when you step into trading, you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about generating wealth and abundance for your loved ones, maybe even for the world. You want to help people. I have traders who want to give back to charities, who want to make bigger impact. And trading gives you that opportunity. But now, when you are always giving and you don't have boundaries, you might also compromising yourself. And there might not be space for taking. And sometimes you might even let people walk over you and say, that's okay. That's all right. I can handle it. I'm strong. Just think about how do you do that? And do you allow yourself to take as well? Do you give other people a chance to give by taking? And in trading, this can show up as staying too long in trades, cutting your profits short, or giving back your profits. Maybe pushing for more when you should stop. Generally ignoring your own limits, ignoring your own rules, ignoring the promises to yourself, even though you know you should stick to them. The second pattern is perfectionism. Nothing is ever quite good enough or quite right. Trading is a perfect environment for perfectionists because in trading, nothing is ever perfect enough, right? It's just like the uncertainty, and it's just this environment, it's this tension. Could be better. So you start overthinking your decisions because, in fact, you are constantly looking for certainty before you can act. And while you do that, it feels like you're doing the right thing, right? You want to make the most educated decision. You want to have all the information there. You want to have a certain certainty so that you don't make the mistake. Because the matter of fact is that perfectionists are actually looking for control. This is a form of control. So what you're really doing is trying to avoid the emotional discomfort of being wrong. That costs you missed trades, not taking the profits in time, but also it costs you mental exhaustion because you constantly second guessing yourself. And then eventually your confidence will suffer because if you constantly question yourself, you will automatically kill your confidence just by introducing a doubt. It's a very normal thing. Just look in life. If someone would constantly question you, you would start questioning yourself too, right? And the third pattern is people pleasing and trying to prove something, trying to prove yourself. When you do that, when you have that pattern, you are basically acting based on how things look instead of what's actually right for you. What's the perception of what I'm doing? What will people say? What will they think about me? How does this make me look? So you operate from what other people expect from you, and you constantly look for approval. Exhausting. But this is because you don't want to disappoint anyone. So your intention is good, but you put yourself under pressure. So you start forcing. You start forcing trades. You start forcing yourself. You push through your boundaries. You start fighting the market because you need to prove that you are right. And then at some point, trading really stops being just trading, but it starts becoming about you. It's very personal because you're just trying to get it right, to show that you are someone. And that's where things really become dangerous because now your decisions are no longer about what is the market doing. They are about what is it that you need emotionally. And what's important to understand is that these patterns rarely exist alone. They really feed each other. So it is not whether you have one or two. They exist in ecosystem. A people pleaser will often violate their own boundaries just to avoid disappointing others. A perfectionist keeps looking for certainty and then overcompensates emotionally when things don't go perfectly. And someone who is constantly looking to prove himself will often ignore their boundaries, their exhaustion. They will force trades. They will override their own limits. And eventually, all those patterns lead to the same outcome, acting against yourself. I talked more about these patterns in my latest podcast episode. So if this is something that resonates, then I invite you to check it out. It's the real reason you exit trades too early or give profits back. You can find my podcast on all major platforms or by going to confidenceinTrading.com. So the one thing that I see over and over again in our industry, most traders focus almost entirely on learning how to make money. And they spend most of their time developing the skills that will help them to do that, right? Define the strategy, prepare the plan, execute the plan, even mindset skills, manage emotions, recover from losses, and everything is focused on how do I make money? And all of those skills matter. They absolutely matter because they do help you make money in the market. But what almost nobody talks about is the skill that actually helps you keep it. What do you do when you are in profit? That's the skill that you need in order to be constantly profitable. And maybe you have already experienced this yourself, that making money, it's not the hardest thing in trading, it's the making profit. That's the difference. And there is a gap in between. And that's the gap that I want you to start paying attention to. You all go grocery shopping sometimes, right? You most likely would agree and assume that the store that you're going to is charging you more for the products that you're buying than they paid for them, correct? You would assume there is some margin on those products, right? That they can cover their costs. You also probably wouldn't find it strange that the employees get paid, that the lights stay on, and that the store eventually also closes in the evening so that everyone can go home and rest. You accept it, you understand it, because the business is designed to make profit, right? So that's very normal. So now think about your trading. How often do you treat it like a business that deserves profit? Are you running a 24/7 shop? Even when you walk away from the charts, is your mind still open for business? Overthinking, replaying trades, wondering what could have been, worrying about the losses, questioning whether you will ever make it? Never truly giving yourself the chance to rest. And just think about it for a moment. You are the biggest asset in your business. You are the business. You're the one-person show. So if you collapse, your trading business is done. It collapses with you. So if you want your trading business to become consistently profitable, you have no choice but start thinking through the profitability lens. And you can begin by just looking at how you live and which of these patterns we talked about today you see in your life and how do they manifest in your trading. Because then you will understand how and why you trade like you do. And if you keep ignoring your needs, pushing past your limits, and trying to prove something, trading will reflect them back to you every single day. The skill that most traders miss is the profitability skill, the ability to act in your best interest, not sometimes, consistently. Because the moment that you learn this skill and then truly also embody the importance of your role as a leader, your role in your trading business, that's when you will finally allow yourself to receive and accept what the market is giving you. Take it, but also keep it. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I hope that this conversation give you a different perspective on what profitability in trading actually requires.